I wasn't looking for a miracle. All I wanted was a place I could afford. Something small, quiet, away from the noise of the city. So when I found a listing for a 2-story home on Granger Street for less than half the market value, I didn't ask too many questions. It looked old in the pictures, sure, but charming. Brick walls, ivy-covered porch, large backyard. The ad said, needs minor repairs, but I was handy enough. And besides, it was mine. When I called the real estate agent, he hesitated, said it had been on the market for years, said other buyers had issues. Whatever that meant. But I was desperate, and I had cash. Papers were signed within a week. The day I moved in, the sky was gray. The house stood like a forgotten memory at the end of the street. No neighbors on either side, just empty lots and trees. Windows tall and narrow, paint peeled in strips. The front door groaned like it hadn't been opened in years. Inside, it smelled like dust and wood rot. The wallpaper had yellowed, and every floorboard creaked underfoot. But there was potential. A fireplace in the living room, old chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. It felt tired, but salvageable. I unpacked slowly, starting with the essentials: bed, coffee maker, toolbox. The house was cold, even though it was spring. I blamed bad insulation. That first night, I couldn't sleep. The wind moaned through the chimney and I kept hearing sounds, faint tapping, like someone walking barefoot upstairs. But the second floor was empty. I had checked twice. The next morning, I found a handprint on the bathroom mirror, too high to be mine. Smudged, like it had been pressed there in a hurry. I wiped it off and tried to ignore the chill crawling up my spine. A few days later, I visited the local hardware store. The old man behind the counter looked up when I told him the address. "You bought that place?" he said. I laughed. "Yeah, got a great deal." His eyes narrowed. "You know what happened there?" I didn't. He told me, reluctantly, that the house had been the scene of a murder back in the 1980s. A family of 3. Father shot his wife and son, then hung himself in the upstairs hallway. The bodies weren't found for weeks. "No one stays long," he muttered. Strange things. Lights turning on by themselves. Voices. One guy swore he saw someone standing at the top of the stairs every night. I tried to play it cool, but my stomach twisted. I thanked him and left, trying to tell myself he was exaggerating. But when I got home, my front door was open. I hadn't left it that way. Inside, everything looked untouched, except for one thing. On the living room wall, scratched into the plaster, were 3 words, still here, watching. I stood frozen. The air was thick. The silence felt loud. I should have left, but I didn't. Instead, I installed cameras, motion detectors, night vision, the works. I told myself it was for peace of mind, nothing more. The footage was normal for the first few nights. Then came the 5th night. At 2:13 a.m., one of the hallway cameras picked up movement. A tall figure, pale, barefoot, standing in front of my bedroom door. But I hadn't seen anyone. I hadn't heard anything. And the camera? It showed me, sleeping inside. The next morning, the door to the basement was open. I never touched that door. The hinges were rusted shut when I moved in. But now it was wide open. The air below was freezing, thick with the smell of mildew, and something metallic. I went down. Each step groaned, like the house didn't want me there. The basement was unfinished, dirt floor, wooden beams, old shelves lined with jars I didn't dare open. And in the far corner, under a loose plank of wood, I found a small box. Inside, a silver locket, a child's drawing, and a photo. Black and white, edges burned. It showed a man staring into the camera, eyes blacked out with ink. On the back, someone had written, "He never left." That night, the knocking began, slow, deliberate. From inside the walls, the knocking didn't stop. It started every night at exactly 2:13 a.m., the same time the camera had caught that figure. 3 knocks, a pause, then 3 more. At first I thought it was the pipes, or maybe rats. But it didn't sound like pipes. It was rhythmic, intentional, like knuckles on wood, like something, wanted to come out. I covered the basement door with furniture. I didn't want to hear that sound anymore. But the knocking continued. Then it moved, to the walls, to the bedroom door, to inside the closet. I stopped sleeping. Dark circles formed under my eyes. My skin felt like it didn't belong to me. I kept reviewing the camera footage, night after night, hoping to see something, hoping I wouldn't. One night I saw myself walk down the hallway at 2:15 a.m. The problem? I was asleep. Or at least, I thought I was. In the footage I moved slowly, like someone puppeteering my body. I walked straight into the basement. And then, nothing. The camera glitched. When it came back online, I was in bed. I woke up sore, dirt on my hands. My feet were muddy. I checked the basement. The box was gone. In its place, scratched into the dirt floor, was a symbol, a circle, with lines running through it like spokes on a wheel. I didn't recognize it, but it felt wrong, like my eyes weren't meant to look at it. That morning I finally snapped. I drove to the county archives and requested everything they had on the house. The clerk looked surprised. "No one's ever asked about that property before," she said, handing me a dusty file. Inside were police reports, newspaper clippings, and something else. A sealed envelope marked, "Do not disclose. Missing persons, case number 3127-G. I opened it. Photos spilled out. Children, teenagers, adults, all gone missing within a 5-mile radius of Granger Street over the last 50 years, all last seen near this house. One photo stopped my breath. It was a grainy image of a girl standing on the porch, my porch. Her face pale, eyes wide, and behind her, barely visible in the window, was a shadow, tall, watching. I left the archives shaking. I didn't go home that night. I booked a motel on the edge of town and sat with the photos, trying to piece things together. There was a pattern, disappearances every few years, always near the same place, always after a new tenant moved in. I was next. I knew it. The next morning I got a message on my phone, no number, just text. "You shouldn't have opened it." Then, an image. A still from my bedroom camera. It showed me, sleeping, and standing at the foot of my bed. The man from the burned photo. Same dark suit, same ink-covered eyes, except now he was smiling. I drove back to the house. It was a mistake. The front door was already open, as if waiting for me. The house was colder than ever, silent, but not empty. I could feel it. I went upstairs, past the hallway where the father had hung himself, past the mirror with the forgotten handprint, into the bedroom. Everything looked the same, except for the closet. It was open. Inside was a tunnel, carved into the back wall, narrow, dirt-lined, going deeper than it should have. No house should have that. I should have run. Instead, I grabbed a flashlight and crawled inside. The air was damp and cold. The walls closed in. My breath echoed. After what felt like hours, the tunnel opened into a chamber. Stone walls, candles, lit, though no one was there. In the center, the circle, the same symbol from the basement, and around it, dozens of items, shoes, dolls, photos, all belonging to the missing. And then I saw it, the locket, from the box, floating, turning in midair. I reached out. Everything went black. I woke up gasping, not in my bed, not even in the tunnel. I was lying on the wooden floor of the living room, back in the house, drenched in sweat, dirt under my fingernails, my shirt ripped. My phone was beside me. One new video. I hesitated, then I played it. It showed me inside the underground chamber just before I blacked out. I was speaking, chanting, in a voice I didn't recognize. My eyes were open, but blank. The locket hovered between my hands, glowing faintly. Then a low whisper filled the video. One more soul. To stay. The screen went black. I dropped the phone. My head pounded. My hands shook. Something had followed me back. I could feel it. The shadows in the corners no longer stayed still. They watched. That night the knocking didn't come. Instead, something new. Scratching. Long, slow scratches along the walls. The sound of nails dragging across wood. From inside the house. From under the floorboards. From behind the mirrors. And then, the laughter. Soft. Childlike. Echoing through the hallways. I ran from room to room. Nothing. No one. Until I reached the attic. The door was open. I had never opened that door. Inside, dust floated in thick beams of moonlight. Broken toys lay scattered. An old rocking horse faced the corner. A mirror leaned against the far wall, its glass unbroken, unlike the others. And standing in front of it was me. But it wasn't a reflection. I moved. He didn't. His face was pale, skin tight like parchment, eyes sunken, and that same haunting, twisted grin. He lifted a hand slowly, pointing at me. Then from behind me, I heard footsteps. But when I turned, the attic was empty. The next day, I tried to leave. I packed my car and drove. I didn't care where. But the road looped. No matter how far I drove, I always came back to Granger Street, the gas station, the diner, the broken traffic light. The town was a circle. I was trapped. I returned to the house and screamed until my voice gave out. And then I heard her, a girl's voice, whispering from the basement. "Help me, please." It was the same voice from the locket's recording. I had to know. I couldn't live like this, haunted, hunted, lost. So I went back into the tunnel. Only this time, it was deeper, wetter. The walls pulsed like veins. My flashlight flickered. My breath clouded the air. And then I reached it, a second chamber, this one carved in stone. Ancient symbols all over the walls, chains hanging from the ceiling, and in the center, her, the girl from the photo. But she was wrong. Her face was stitched into a smile. Her eyes were black, endless, her limbs too long. She hovered above the ground, whispering endlessly. "Let them in, let them in, let them in." Then the shadows poured from the walls, hundreds of hands, clawing, grabbing, cold. I screamed. Everything went dark. Again. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. The little girl from the basement, her eyes like empty sockets, mouth stitched shut with what looked like wire. Her dress soaked in something dark, and always that sound. Tick, tick, tick. Like an old clock echoing behind my ears. But I didn't own a clock. By morning I was shaking. I needed answers. I dug through every drawer, every locked cabinet. In the attic I found a chest with strange carvings, circles inside triangles, eyes etched into the wood, all scratched deep as if by fingernails. Inside I found photos, old black and white pictures of the house. It looked almost the same. But one photo stopped me cold. It was a family, man, woman, and a little girl. Her eyes were black dots on faded paper. Someone had written on the back in shaky ink, "Anna." We told her not to go in the basement. I stared at her face. It was her, the same girl. But this picture looked nearly 100 years old. And then, beneath the photos, I found a diary. It wasn't my uncle's. It was dated 1928. The handwriting was childlike, uneven, with ink that bled at the edges. Mama said I can't go in the cellar, but I hear the tapping. He calls me with tapping. I think he's sad. I think he's lonely. The pages grew darker, messier. He said he can fix me. He said he can make my voice come back. He lives in the mirror. I dropped the book. My hands were cold. I rushed to the bathroom, turned the mirror around. I didn't care if it looked crazy, because in the reflection the night before, she wasn't behind me. She was inside the mirror. That night the power went out. No wind, no storm, just darkness. The kind that breathes. I lit candles, tried to calm my nerves. But then I saw it, the wallpaper, peeling back near the ceiling. It looked like something was written beneath. I climbed up, peeled it away. Hundreds of symbols, burned into the wood. Some I recognized from the attic chest. Others made my stomach twist, like my brain was trying to forget them before I understood. Then a sound, whispers, but not in the house, in my head. They hissed through my skull like a virus, dry and cracked, like someone was whispering through broken glass. And then I understood one word. Downstairs. I tried to resist. I really did. But I felt pulled, like ropes around my ribs. I took the candle, walked to the basement door. It was open. I didn't leave it that way. Every step down was like wading into ice water. And the deeper I went, the louder I heard it. Tick, tick, tick. At the bottom I saw her again. Anna. She was sitting on the ground, knees to her chest, rocking slowly. Her mouth was no longer stitched, but wide open, stretching unnaturally. From her throat came the ticking. I backed away. But behind me, a voice. She sat in the chair, too. I turned, and there he was, the thing, the one from the mirror. Taller now. His skin hung loose, as if too big for his bones. His hands were long and sharp, fingers like iron hooks. His face was blank. Just smooth flesh and two dark holes where eyes should be. And then he spoke, but not aloud, in my mind. This house doesn't belong to you. It never did. You're just next. I ran. I don't know how I got out of that basement. I locked the door, nailed it shut, screamed until my throat tore. But the ticking didn't stop. It followed me, inside my head, inside my dreams. And now, sometimes I see Anna standing in the hallway. Sometimes I see him in the corner of my vision. And every time I look in the mirror, he's getting closer. I left the house the next morning. At least I tried. I packed my bag, grabbed my keys, didn't even bother locking the door. But the moment I stepped outside, I was back in the hallway. Same silence. The house wouldn't let me leave. I tried again, opened the front door, and I was back in the living room. The window looked out at the street. I could see it. Cars, people walking, birds flying by. But when I smashed the glass and climbed out, I landed in the basement. This place was a loop, a trap. And every time I tried to leave, I ended up deeper. More candles, more shadows, more whispers in the walls. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I just wandered. Like the house grew every time I blinked. New hallways, new doors, rooms filled with dolls, old photos of people without faces, walls that bled when touched. One room was full of mirrors, all of them broken, except one. In it, I saw myself, but not myself. He looked like me, but older, paler. His smile too wide, his eyes too still. And then he moved, before I did. He pressed his hand to the glass, and I felt cold on my own palm. I screamed, I ran, but I couldn't escape what I already was. That night the house spoke to me. Not with words, with visions. It showed me the first owner, an old man who practiced rituals, who brought something from the other side, not a ghost, not a demon, something worse. It fed on memories, on time. Every person who lived here never left. They became part of the house. The walls whispered their names, and now, mine too. I tried one last thing: fire. I poured gasoline from the shed, lit a match. The house laughed. It didn't burn. The fire bent backwards, toward me, licked my skin, but didn't scorch, just marked me. The next morning I was back in the kitchen, like nothing happened. Same clock on the wall, same ticking, tick, tick, tick. But the date on the newspaper had changed. 10 years had passed. I was older. My face in the mirror was not mine anymore. The house hadn't killed me. It had rewritten me. If you're reading this, it means the house is looking for another visitor, another story to tell. Do not go into the basement. Do not trust the mirrors. And whatever you do, don't answer when the ticking starts. Because once you do, you're already his forever.